My name is Mildred. And on the day I married David Johnson, I believed with everything inside me that I was the luckiest woman alive. He was handsome. He was wealthy. The son of one of the most respected businessmen in our state. His father had built an empire, trucks, contracts, properties, accounts, and left every single thing to his only son. On our wedding day, I did not see a man who had been handed everything without working for it. I only saw the man I loved. And I smiled like a woman who had absolutely no idea what was coming.
I love you.
His mother, Mrs. Johnson, was a woman who commanded every room she entered. Expensive. Sharp. Calculating. She chose me herself. Not because she believed I would make her son happy, but because she saw in me exactly what she wanted. A quiet woman. A soft woman. A woman she could control. She looked at me across the sitting room and smiled. And I smiled back, not knowing that her smile was the smile of someone who had just found exactly what they were looking for. The home David brought me to was everything a young woman from a humble background could dream of. Marble floors. High ceilings. Expensive furniture. A compound so large my entire childhood street could fit inside it. I walked through those doors as a new bride and I thought, God has been so good to me. I did not yet know that the most dangerous prisons are the ones that look like palaces. I took over that kitchen like it was my kingdom. I cooked every morning before he woke up. I learned his favorite meals. I made sure everything was perfect. I was a wife in every meaning of the word. Those first few months were beautiful. I would stand at that stove humming to myself, thinking about our future. Children. Holidays. Growing old together. I was so full of hope. So full of love. So completely unaware. The first sign came quietly. The way dangerous things always do. He started coming home late. Then later. Then not at all some nights. And when he did come home, there was something in his eyes I did not recognize. Something cold. Something that looked at me and saw nothing worth respecting. The first time he hit me was 3 months after our wedding. He said I overcooked the rice. 1 slap. Then 2. Then he walked to the bedroom and slept, like nothing had happened. Like I was nothing. I stood in that kitchen with my hand on my face, telling myself it was the alcohol. Telling myself it would never happen again. It happened again. And again. And again. For 6 years, David used my body like a punching bag. He hit me when dinner was late. He hit me when I asked where he had been. He hit me when I cried. He even hit me when I stayed silent. There was no winning with this man. Some nights after the children were asleep and the house was quiet, I would sit on the floor of that big beautiful expensive kitchen and cry until I had nothing left. Not because I was weak. But because I was carrying something no woman should ever carry alone. I always knew about the cheating. A woman always knows. The late nights. The cold silences. The phone always face down. But the day it became something I could no longer ignore was an ordinary Tuesday evening. He dropped his jacket on the chair as he always did and walked to the bathroom. I picked it up to hang it. And there it was, on the collar of his dark suit jacket, a deep, bold, shameless red lipstick stain. My hands stopped moving. My breath stopped moving. And something inside me went very, very quiet. I called his mother. Because where else could I go? I sat on the edge of our bed with a swollen eye and a shaking voice and I told her everything. The hitting. The late nights. The lipstick. I told her I was scared. I told her I needed help. And I waited for the comfort that a mother is supposed to give. What I got instead was a sigh. Long and heavy, like I was the one inconveniencing her. Mildred, my daughter, do you know what I endured in my own marriage? That is what marriage is. A good wife does not run. She stays and covers her husband's shame. She sat there telling me this and she told me every time. Without fail. She knew what her son was doing. She knew everything. And she chose him every single time. But I stayed. Not because I was weak, but because of my 3 children. The only good thing that came out of those walls. I stayed for their school fees. I stayed for their bedtime stories. I made myself a promise that no matter what happened to me inside that marriage, my children would feel nothing but love. One day the life that David Johnson had been living so carelessly came to a sudden and violent end. A crash so severe that the men who found him said they did not expect him to survive the night. My phone rang. Unknown number. Is this the wife of David Johnson? I sat up. Yes. Madam, please come to Roswell Hospital immediately. I sat in that bed for a long moment. And I will tell you the truth, because this story deserves nothing but the truth. My first feeling was not panic. It was not fear. It was not even sadness. It was a silence. A deep, ancient silence. Like something inside me had been quietly waiting for exactly this moment. I got to the hospital at 3 a.m. The doctor pulled me aside and spoke carefully. Madam, your husband survived. But the impact on his spine was catastrophic. He has lost all feeling and movement from the waist down. He will not walk again. He will need full-time care for everything, feeding, bathing, turning, all of it. I stood in that corridor under the white hospital lights and I nodded slowly. Because something had already shifted inside me before I even walked through those hospital doors. I walked into his room alone. He looked up when he heard my footsteps. And the moment he saw my face, he began to cry. I pulled the chair close. I sat down. And I looked at him for a long, long time without saying a single word. Then very quietly I spoke. For 6 years, David, you hit me. You humiliated me. You cheated without shame. You made my children afraid in their own home. And your mother told me to endure. So I endured. I leaned forward slowly. Now tell me, which one of your women is going to come and bathe you? Who is going to stay when things get very bad? He was sobbing. Baby, please, I am so sorry, please don't leave me. I stood up and smoothed my dress. I am not leaving you, David. He looked up with relief. But I am also not doing this alone. After 1 month in that hospital, I went to the doctor's office and signed the papers myself. I brought David home. I arranged everything. And every day he apologized. Every single day. Mildred, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I was a fool. It was the devil. Please, my dear wife. I never said anything because sorry does not erase all the horrible things he did to me for 6 years. And I had learned something that David was only beginning to understand, that words without consequences mean absolutely nothing. It was on a Thursday night 2 weeks after he came home that the idea came to me. I sat at my kitchen island with his phone in my hand. I opened his contacts. I saw all the chats and money transfers he did for these ladies. I picked 3 of them. Their names were Candy, my heartthrob, and my sugar. These ladies were the ones he transferred lots of money to, and I began to type, the same way he sent them messages. Baby, my wife has taken the children to my mom's place. The house is free this weekend. I have been missing you. You can come on Friday so we spend the weekend together. I sent the message to each one of them telling them the day to come. I smiled for the first time in years. And I waited for Friday. Friday morning. 9 o'clock. A knock at the gate. Candy stood there, weekend bag on her shoulder, dressed up, smiling, confident, like she was arriving somewhere she belonged. The smile died the moment she saw my face. I thought you traveled. I finished quietly. Come in, Candy. She stepped inside. I locked the door and I placed a document on the table. I placed a pen beside it. I have everything, Candy. Every message. Every photo. Every voice note. Your name, your face, your words, ready to be sent to your office, your family, your church, everyone on the internet. She was shaking. Now all I need you to do is sign this document, in agreement that you will take care of the man you have been sharing with me. Her hands trembled as she picked up the pen. But she picked it up. And she signed. I did the same thing to all three of them. What happened in that bedroom? I couldn't have written it even if I tried. It was a terrible experience for all of them. The moment they realized the man they had been fighting over was now helpless, their attitudes changed instantly. The looks on their faces were filled with disgust and regret. At that moment, I knew one thing for sure. The next time any of them hears that a man is married, they will run in the opposite direction. But I wasn't done yet. I walked quietly to David's room. He was sitting there, helpless, his pride completely gone. I looked straight at him and said, "Can you see yourself now? After spending so much money on those girls, look at how they treated you. They couldn't even take care of you the way I did." His eyes filled with fear. He started begging again. "Please, Mildred, don't punish me like this. Please." His voice was shaking. But I stayed calm. Then I said slowly, "I will stop when you do exactly what I say." He quickly nodded. "I will do anything you ask. Please, anything." That was the moment I had been waiting for. I looked at him and said, "Tomorrow, call your lawyer. Tell him to bring all your documents. The ones for this house, and the ones for your office." His face turned pale. But he nodded in fear. Yes. I will do it," he said. I simply smiled. Then I turned around. And walked out of the room. The next morning, the lawyer arrived at the house. David sat quietly in his wheelchair while I stood beside him, calm and composed. The lawyer placed several documents on the table. I looked at David and spoke slowly. "Sign the house over to your son, David Jr., and make me the managing director of the company." The lawyer adjusted his glasses, surprised by my request. But David already knew he had no choice. His hands trembled as he picked up the pen. Slowly, he signed every document. The house. The company. Everything. When the lawyer finished reviewing the papers, he packed them neatly into his briefcase and left the mansion. Silence filled the room. Then I picked up my phone and called my mother-in-law. "Good afternoon, Ma," I said calmly. "Your son asked to see you." She arrived almost immediately. But when her car pulled into the compound, she froze in shock. Outside the gate were several packed boxes, and David sitting quietly in his wheelchair. Confused and angry, she stepped out of the car.
"What is my son doing
"Mildred,
outside of his own house?
what is the meaning
the
of this?"
meaning of this?
she shouted.
Mildred,
"Why
what
is my son
son
outside his
doing
own
outside of
house?"
his own house?
I looked
What is
at
the
her
meaning of
politely and
this?
replied, "I'm sorry, Ma, but this house no longer belongs to your son. It belongs to David Jr. now. And unfortunately, we can no longer accommodate him here." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Please," I continued calmly. "Take your son home and take good care of him." For the first time, she had nothing to say. The same woman who once defended her son's behavior, now had to face the consequences. As their car slowly drove away, I stood at the gate watching them leave. For years, I had endured humiliation, betrayal, and pain. But that chapter of my life was finally over. I walked back into the house, my son's house. And for the first time in a very long time, peace finally lived there. Life has a way of balancing every wrong. For years, Mildred suffered in silence, but in the end, patience and wisdom gave her the victory. The lesson is simple: never take love, loyalty, and kindness for granted. Because the same person you look down on today may decide your fate tomorrow. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and follow for more African tales.